Hello friends, in the last video I had bought this TDI Q7, which in Volkswagen terms means diesel. This is a diesel Audi Q7 and it is the first diesel that I've ever owned or worked on. So I have a lot to learn. Not only did I buy my first diesel, within the first 50 to 100 miles of me using it, it started having diesel issues. The first symptom was a blinking glow plug light, and that happened while I was driving on the highway, and I noticed my speed dropping. Very little, very slowly. It went from 80 to 79 to 78 and kept going down to 60 over a period of like 3 miles. So I did manage to make it back to the shop. Luckily, I was pretty close. This car was still drivable. It was still somewhat accelerating, just not at highway speeds. And it maintained a speed of 60 miles an hour for some time, but couldn't go above that, even if I had the throttle to the floor. And then since then I parked it, tried to start it a few times. It has a hard time starting. And now I need to figure out what the issue is. We have a few codes, none of which really point to anything specific, but I think we're gonna start with the EGR valve. It seems to be, I think all the cylinders are somewhat firing, and with my very small amount of knowledge about diesels, the EGR valve is my first guess. And in general, for me, the best way to learn things is to just start taking them apart and try and figure it out. Let's begin. And if you're just like me and know nothing about diesels, EGR stands for exhaust gas recirculation. And its main goal is to cool down the combustion temperatures. It does that by sending our exhaust gas into the EGR cooler, where it cools down, and sends it back into the intake where it goes through the combustion once again. This process is controlled by the EGR valve, and if you know anything about diesels, is that their exhaust is full of soot, aka carbon buildup. And all this carbon can frequently clog things up and affect the performance of everything it touches. The EGR valve has some very tight clearances, and with time this soot can make it hard or impossible for the valve to open or close properly. And that can negatively affect the air-fuel ratio inside the combustion chamber and making it impossible for the motor to run correctly. The EGR valve is right here, right above the EGR cooler. So we're just going to disconnect some of the electrical connections and slowly make our way to the bolts that hold the valve in, and hopefully with those removed, we can pull it out and see if we can inspect it inside, see if it's really suited up. Looks like we have a few Torx. I believe they're T30s. Let's just undo those and see if anything gets loose. With those 3 Torxes removed, in theory, the EGR should come out. The EGR valve, sorry, I need to specify. However, it doesn't seem to want to come out. So it looks like we're gonna have to persuade it a little bit with a tiny little pry bar. This thing really doesn't want to come out, so I'm going to try and remove the 3 Torx that hold the plastic part on. And let's see. Oh yeah, here's that soot I was talking about. Just absolutely dark in there. A bunch of carbon buildup. So if I'm not mistaken, this little guy here is supposed to rotate. So this here is a little motor that rotates this assembly here and then moves the valve up and down. Looks like we have a little spring that is supposed to push it up. And it kind of looks to me that the spring is currently fully compressed and the valve doesn't want to go up or down. So I need to come up with a way to break that loose and pull the entire valve assembly off to try and properly clean it. But it is kind of crazy how stuck that is. I mean, I can't get any movement out of it, like nothing. Okay, finally I have some news. I had to get real rough with this AGR valve, but finally it's coming out. There was some sacrifices made, some carnage, some things broke. And by some things, I'm referring to the actual AGR valve. Finally, look at this guy. So what I broke is one of these mounting ears. This guy is now gone, so there's no way to fix that. We just have to buy a new AGR or maybe delete it. I just need to make sure that this AGR is indeed bad or just like seized up, so that I know that when I buy the new one, our issue should be fixed. But yeah, I'm pretty sure this thing is supposed to be much easier to open and close. Okay, with some gentle love from the hammer, we got this thing to open. And it definitely should be much easier than that. Okay, I genuinely tried to find a replacement EGR valve. But besides these Chinesium valves from Parts Geek and Parts.com, which I do not trust, I haven't been able to find any. Like this one that's OEM, that is only for 2015 cars that have a different setup. So I don't really have a choice but to delete the EGR. I'm not seeing any other options. Seems like it's an easy enough process. The only problem is that we do have to tune that out. Otherwise, the car is going to be stuck in limp mode with the EGR deleted and no tune. So it's looking like we're about to spend 600 bucks. In a last fetched attempt, I decided to try and soak the EGR valve in a bunch of carb cleaner. And after sitting in that for over 48 hours, it did nothing. It was still seized up. A few days ago, I found this snowmobile on my local auction that was a pure sale. It was really old and it was going up at the very beginning of the auction, so I thought there was a solid chance this thing is gonna go for really cheap. So without thinking about it for too long, I just threw in a $300 bid and forgot about it. And here we are, a few days later, and looks like we have won this for $150. This is a 1997 Arctic Cat 600 triple cylinder snowmobile. Mind you, I have never owned a snowmobile before, so I have no idea what I'm looking at. I have no idea how to fix these things. I don't know what it needs. It's listed as undercarriage damage, and it kind of looks like, I don't even know what these things are called. We'll call them skis for now. And it looks like they're not exactly pointing in the same direction. I mean, it's whole, all the plastics are there, it has a clean title, and it has engine, as per Copart. Oh, I just also realized that it says that there's no keys. I did not notice that, but it's okay, I think we can handle no keys. So overall, we're looking at $368 for a snowmobile that might be pretty functional. No keys, but I think that's fine. And when we throw in the delivery, we are looking at $430, which I think is still an awesome deal. Let's just ignore the fact that it's middle of April in Wisconsin, and it's gonna be a very long time before I can take advantage of a snowmobile, but you gotta get into it at some point, and when there's a good deal, well, I can't pass that up. Anyway, while we're waiting for the snowmobile to get delivered, let's get back to our diesel and its EGR. Or, let's be honest, the lack of the EGR. Meaning that I am going to delete it because I'm not seeing any other options, and that is going to increase the reliability of this car for a very long time. In a nutshell, all you have to do is block off this port and this port to prevent any kind of exhaust gases or intake gases from leaking in or out. The easy part is removing the little tube that goes to the intake from the EGR valve. And I don't know this yet, but the much harder part is removing the pipe going from the turbo to the EGR cooler. This was an adventure. For starters, I have to remove the little supporting bracket for our catalytic converter to let our downpipe move around a little more. Next, we remove the end holding it to the turbo to give us some room. And when I say some room, it's a major overstatement. We are looking at basically no room to get to these little tubes that we do need to remove to install block-off plates instead of. I finally managed to get this one to crack open. So this is for our, not the turbo pipe, but at least we're gonna have one less pipe to worry about. What we're deleting is the upstream EGR pipe, and in order to get to it, we have to remove the mid pipe right above it to get better access to the bolts. And finally, don't drop the bolt, don't drop the bolt. Yes, oh my God. No exaggeration, this has taken me about 3 days. Obviously, I wasn't working on them the entire 3 days, but that's how long I've been trying to get one of those two bolts out. And once it comes to the pipe that connects to the turbo directly, things get worse. Because of the heat and rust, things do not want to come out easily, and I broke my Torx bit. Come on out, little guy. You are such a pain in the butt. Now instead of that pipe, we're going to be installing this guy here. Which was also hard, but definitely not as bad as removing those pipes. And I know from your perspective it seems like it was a pretty easy job and took very little time. Believe me, this was excruciatingly painful because you have to sit in the engine bay and work on the back of the motor, the worst place to be. But look what just showed up. I think before installing the tune, I should just try and start the car to make sure that everything still works, so that if there is something wrong after the tune, I know whether it had to do with the tune or what I've done here. So we're going to unplug our EGR valve because I don't want the car trying to open that. There we go. Okay. Our idle is very good, way better than it used to be. If you guys remember from the last video, the car was barely starting, and when it did start, the idle was all over the place and it would even stall. So I think this means that this was indeed just a clogged or seized up AGR valve, which obviously we confirmed physically, but still it's good to confirm that with that thing closed by hand, it should be all good now. I decided I'm not going to delete the AdBlue. We're just going to keep that and we're going to flash it. Okay, and just like that, I think we're all set. We have the EGR tune installed as well as the TCU prefix tune installed. Without further ado, we're ready to start her up. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. All right, she is back. All right, so far the idle has been doing great. Our dash lights went away after driving like 20 feet outside of the shop. And yeah, now we're gonna see what it actually drives like. And this should be pretty exciting because, I mean, we made a significant power increase here. We are looking at, I think, 60 more horsepower or so. And I think it's already pretty noticeable. I think they just significantly increased the throttle response. So a lot less pedal traveled is necessary for it to accelerate pretty hard. The heated steering wheel is so nice. I love them. I can hear the turbo more than I used to, I feel like. Hopefully we didn't leave any boost leaks. Oh, I lost power steering. That was very odd. I mean, it's back now, but we are doing 70 miles an hour on the highway. So far, mechanically, we're doing fine, but that was a very weird moment with my power steering. No idea what happened there. And what's kind of cool is that it now shows us what gear we are in. This was just an option with the tune that you can, I could have coded that with other tools too, but it's just nice that I could do it in one stop. And it's always useful to know what gear your car is in. But it pulls pretty good. I'm giving it very little throttle input and we are accelerating. Yep, so it turns off my power steering if I'm braking and turning at the same time, because I'm pretty sure when I brake and turn, the rotors cause the steering wheel to try and move around and the car doesn't know which way to assist me. Obviously it's not electrically controlled, it is hydraulic power steering in this car, but I think it's just getting mixed inputs and it's not sure what to do, so it just completely turns off the power steering. I think we'll be able to clear off our rotors from the rust with some driving around. Okay, we do have a little bit of smoke coming from the hood. Chances are that's our penetrating fluid that was just all over the place. Oh no, it's coolant. I smell coolant. I think it might have dumped coolant. It's dripping from over here. There used to be a little plastic tube that holds coolant that I ended up replacing with a rubber hose because it broke while working on the EGR, which is very common for them. I had run out of properly sized hose clamps and ended up using a wrong sized hose clamp, because of which it started dripping coolant onto the motor. Easy enough fix. For now we're gonna throw a good old zip tie on it, and hopefully that's gonna prevent any of the leakage until we get back to the shop. We'll go with that and go buy some hose clamps. Thank you, Home Depot. I'm not gonna take the hose off just because let's preserve our coolant. All right, now we're definitely good to go. All right, you guys, so outside of that very minor setback with our coolant, here are the thoughts I have on the job. Oh, we have a check engine light on now. Sweet. We'll get back to the shop and find out what that is. Now, in terms of the EGR delete and my overall opinion about the TDIs so far, just such a pain to work on. I mean, there were like 4 or 5 bolts I had to take out altogether for this job. Yet I spent days working on this car. Like, this was, and we're talking full days. Those 2 little pipe bolts had taken me a whole day each, if not more. And that was just absolutely brutal because it's in the back of the engine. It is so hard to reach, and you have to do very, very painful positions with your fingers, which just absolutely sucked. Granted, this single job is, you know, it's something you do once and you never have to do again, hopefully, unless you, I don't know, unless you do more, like the cat delete, for example. That also looks like it would be a painful thing to do on this car because a lot of the bolts are just really hard to access. The downpipe ones are easy, but everything else, I mean, just looked brutal. Boy, I'm not a fan. However, it's just one of those things that you gotta get done once, and then you kind of never have to worry about it again. And then you're gonna have a very reliable diesel. Because overall, these engines can be pretty reliable. Like, in fact, very reliable as far as Audi engines go, I suppose. I don't know if it's as good as the supercharged ones, but they're pretty solid, maybe even better. And the fuel efficiency is kind of amazing on these. I mean, 600 miles out of a full tank, that is not something to mess around with. That is like significant. But that said, is this car something I'm going to keep? I definitely considered it. I definitely strongly considered it and still am. But I really do love my 3.0T supercharged Q7s. Those motors are amazing. There's nothing significantly bad with them. The PCV is manageable. The harmonic balancer, timing chains past 200,000 miles. It's a solid motor, and I think I would rather have that because I know how to fix it. And so far, the 3.0Ts have been very easy to work on. Everything I've done on them so far has been pretty decent. Even the set PCV, it's not that big of a deal. I can get that done in less than a day, and there's no incredibly painful bolts to worry about. So I think we're gonna have to list this girl for sale once I figure out what this check engine light is and make sure that is no longer an issue. And you know, I won't be upset if it doesn't sell for a long time. I think I'm okay with driving this thing around for a while, but I don't think it has what it takes to be a keeper. It does have some of the highly desired features for me, like the steering wheel heater, the black interior, which is great, but yeah, the diesel part just kind of scares me. I think if it wasn't for it being a diesel, maybe I would have kept it, but nah, I think it's just more work than it's worth. Let's try and see what our codes are. Okay, looks like we're just dealing with that same code from before, which is where our intake flaps, the position sensors for them are malfunctioning. It could either be the sensor itself or it could be the motor. I think the motors are more common to wear out, considering the fact that we've already eliminated the possibility of it being the travel stops. I guess we got some more work to do on this diesel. This thing just won't give up. But luckily this issue isn't instrumental to it driving properly, so we could just not worry about it for a while. Because what I do want to worry about is our brand new Snowmobile. So I think I'm going to address our no key situation by simply installing a switch that acts as our key. To do that, I just simply unplug the two wires going into our ignition switch where the key would normally go into and connect it to this little flip switch. See if that's actually going to start it. I actually had the flip switch in the off position, so looks like it tells us on the dash that the high beam is on. That's pretty cool. I mean, the RPM is doing great, pretty stable. I don't know what that means. Warmer. Does this thing have hand warmers? I kind of doubt it. Actually, yeah, it does. That's a heating element right there. Something definitely, it's supposed to roll at this RPM. All right, let's shut her off. So, for some reason it seems to hold the RPM a lot after you give it gas. As in, like, before I turned it off, it was sitting at 3,000 RPM, even though it really shouldn't be. We just revved it up and then it should drop, and it seems to stick. And then issue number two is that I can't figure out how to get it out of neutral. I mean, it seems like it has the same controls as a four-wheeler where all you do is just give it gas and it starts rolling. But here, it doesn't want to roll, and I wonder if there's some sort of a control somewhere that I can't seem to find. Okay, I did even more research and looks like I was right. It just uses centrifugal forces that cause the clutches to expand or collapse at different speeds of the engine. So I guess all I had to do is just give it even more gas. I guess I'm just not giving it enough gas. And I'm probably not doing that because, well, we are not really in snowmobiling conditions and I just don't want it to fly off out of the shop. So let's give this a try again. First time, baby. There we go. So it just wasn't enough gas, and well, yeah, probably wasn't a great idea to try and do this on this surface, but I just needed to make sure that it delivers power to the track, and well, it does. So we have a perfectly operational snowmobile with a clean title that is yet to be delivered. Now, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, absolutely no idea. I may sell it before winter, I may keep it until winter and test it out and try and play with it and then sell it. I might keep it forever. Possibilities are endless. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to subscribe and like the video so that I can deliver more content like this.